Mcqueen, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you for having me on. What an honor.
I think I've known you for like pretty close to a dozen years at this point.
It feels like 50, but yeah, I think it's been more like 10-ish, maybe 12. It's
10?
been a while.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying
longer.
to think of the first time that I met you, but I couldn't really. The whole outdoor industry is so hard to. I'm good with faces, horrible with names, and I'm awful with timelines.
Right.
So, I've been in this, this little niche of our little world for since 2007. So what is it? That's 15 years. So somewhere in there we met, and you're a pretty inspiring woman. So I'm really excited to have you on today. For those that don't know Julie, she is an outdoor enthusiast, a very impressive and talented businesswoman, serving as the CEO or president and CEO of CarbonTV. The best thing about Julie is she always has a smile on her face, and I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you. That's the compliment I could get.
Yeah. But you're also like a writer and a producer, all kinds of things. You have many hats. So, where are you talking to us from today? For those watching the video, I think I see a headquarters behind you.
Yeah. So this is the CarbonTV headquarters. I'm very proud of it. I'll actually, for anyone watching, we make it really fun. We've got some Baku bikes over there. We've got a ping pong table, a full gym, meeting space for all of the people. And we like to make it really fun for the team to come in. If we do a ping pong tournament over meetings, that's cool. It's just a nice place to be. So, and our headquarters is in Michigan. So I'm just outside of, yeah.
Wow. How do you like Michigan? Have you lived there for a long time?
So I've refrained from even saying I live here. If that, I love the state, but I have been living in Montana prior to this. And so psychologically, it's hard for me to break from Montana. So I'm still trying to convince myself that I go between the two. But I love Michigan. I mean, the people are great. The weather's a little cold in the winter, but it's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah, I think my only experience in Michigan was in the summertime a long time ago. And I just remember it being very hot and muggy.
It is. Yeah.
But I remember it being it's a beautiful state. Like, I went outside the city because I don't really like any cities.
No.
But I remember it being pretty.
Yeah, I try not to go downtown. That I kind of stay in the more quiet areas. But yeah, it's nice. It's good.
That's right. You were living in Southwest Montana, I think, one of the last times I saw you.
Yeah, I was living with Jana, one of my best friends, my best friend, for quite a few years, and then ended up here when I took this job. And, for a while I was going back and forth, but it just made more sense for me to spend more time here. And I love working with my team face to face. So yeah, it's good. I've adjusted well.
Now you're running this company. And for those, can you give a little bit of a high level of what this company is that you're running? And then I had some questions.
Yeah. So CarbonTV, we're going into our 10th year in business, which is basically a dinosaur if you're in the digital space and the outdoors. And we are an OTT AVOD network, which means we're an over-the-top video on demand network, and we distribute video content through that network. And it's kind of grown and moved in some other directions over the past few years, which I'm really proud of. So instead of defining ourselves within those parameters, we've branched into, for example, global fast channel distribution. So we have a global presence, always free. So fast, for anyone who doesn't know, means free ad-supported television, streaming TV. Looks very linear, but it's still very digital. And we have about 250 something shows airing on the network right now. And then last year, as you know, we brought on podcasts. So we basically created a podcast distribution center within our infrastructure of CarbonTV so that people can listen, they can watch. We've tried to just kind of expand out in those different ways.
So were you running companies before you moved into this role?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I did before this is I co-owned a production company out of Nashville for about 8 years. And so I was more well known as a producer, TV show host, kind of in front of and behind the camera in those days. And I've been in the outdoor industry for 18 years now. I mean, quite a while. And through those years, I've basically been either behind a camera or in front of it. The production company before this was amazing. I was spending all my time on the road, 250 days a year, field producing, line producing, executive producing, and hosting, depending on what project it was. So when I took this role, it very much moved me from personality into a corporate role, which was a major pivot. There was a lot to kind of reflect on and say, okay, this definitely changes the way that I can affect our outdoor community. It expands that in some ways. And it changed a lot to go corporate, but I have had the best time with it. It's been amazing.
Where do you get your business savvy? Like, what's your background? Did you go to college for business, or did you have a family that was entrepreneurial?
Not even close. No, my family is anything but entrepreneurial. And I went to college for psychology. So I have a degree in psychology. But I am very much an advocate for self-education. So any of the interviews I do, anyone who talks to me, about my strategy in life, I believe that we live in an age where information and education is basically free if you know what you're looking for. So if anyone puts a task in front of you and you say no because you don't know how to do that task, that I think you're crazy. I mean, you can figure out how to do it. You can take online courses. A lot of them don't cost anything. You can educate yourself on anything that you want to know. So every day, almost every day, 5 days a week, I spend 1 hour of my time on self-education. I'm not saying that's how I learned how to run this company, because that would be a little far-fetched. I just happen to fall really well into the role based on my prior knowledge of the industry, understanding of producers and what they're looking for and what they need. So this role was basically, it was meant for me. I know that. I know the universe put it there. But no, I don't have a solid education when it comes to business background. My family does not come from a strong business background at all. But I'm really proud of that. I think that we can break those generational, it's not a curse, it's a generational cycle.
What do you focus, like when you're doing this self-education, do you focus on things that you're already good at, stuff, you try to mix it with things that you're not good at, you know nothing about? What are you digging for there? I love that, by the way. I think that's, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate that stuff more. Whereas I feel like in my first half of my life, you kind of despise education. But then I started noticing how my dad and his friends later in their life, they started reading more and they started being more curious. And I'm like, what the hell are they doing? That seems just so boring and stupid. But now that I just turned 42 a couple days ago, and
birthday.
Thanks. Appreciate it. And I am realizing that kind of the older you get, the less you realize you know. So I think it's really cool that you're devoting that much time, because I get so much satisfaction out of stuff like that. But I'm curious what you focus on.
Yeah. So my strategy is I think that our brains can be triggered in a certain way. For example, if I meditate, I take my shoes off, my brain knows it's time to meditate. When I'm doing my self-education, I actually keep an hourglass in my office, like an old school, it has sand in it, and I flip that thing over and it goes for an hour. And until the sand runs out, I can't do anything other than learn about something, pick something, anything, whether it's taking a French lesson, which I love studying other languages, reading about history. You can go to a lot of websites and actually find college courses that are completely free. And you can sign up for these courses, get the materials, read through all of it. You don't have to go at anybody else's pace. And sometimes it's business related. So if we are moving into a space I don't fully understand, whether that's on the tech side, if it's on the distribution side, the ad serving side, any of those, you can Google anything and find answers. And I
Mhm.
will bookmark those pages for that time. And while that sand is running, I go back and I just do nothing but read. I take notes. I Google things that I don't know about. And then when the time runs up, I don't want it to be up yet. It's like that curiosity sparks something that's almost childlike. And it brings you back to, wow, my brain has the capacity to learn these things and understand something new. And then my other thing on this is I think that a lot of us, depending on our cognitive style, I think that we can absorb that information more easily if we teach it to somebody else immediately. So if I reiterate what I just read to somebody, if I say, hey, I learned something really interesting today, it will stick with us forever. Then you don't forget it. It's speaking those words and helping somebody else understand what you're excited about. And that's my strategy. I think that it's changed the way that I run this company. It's changed the way that I, form relationships and have friends.
Mhm.
It makes my life more interesting to just self-educate almost every day.
It's pretty overwhelming to think like how much information is available to all of us.
Yeah.
Like if you are curious and you want to learn anything, it's like, God, you could literally learn anything you want, anything down to the most granular detail, but none of us have that much time. So it's like, you got to prioritize what you want to, unless you just really enjoy just kind of dabbling into a whole bunch of different things, which is cool too. But
Yeah.
if you actually like, say you want to learn the guitar or a language or, what jujitsu, whatever, you can at least learn enough at the surface level to see if you have any further interest. In like 10 minutes, you can figure out if you're like interested past that, right? Just on YouTube.
Yeah,
YouTube is
right.
like the greatest depository of knowledge that's ever existed on the history of the planet, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
But when you get in those states, like I am actually here right now. I was just thinking last night, I'm reading David Goggins' book, Never Finished right now, but I'm almost done with it. And I was thinking, I'm trying to read one fiction and one nonfiction a month.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of the next book that I wanted to read, and I got overwhelmed. Like you can't find. I mean, I could look at Amazon's best-selling book, but I don't know if that's like biased or like So where do you go? Like, there's just so much available to all of us at all times.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the curiosity comes from. If I go to someone's house and I'm almost like a creeper on their bookshelf, and it's like I dig through and I find, okay, what are they reading? What are they looking at? What will I find in here that I didn't know existed? And I've found a lot of I'll send you a list. I'm a book nerd. I go through about 3 or 4 months, all nonfiction, mostly either historical biographies, science, just the one I'm listening to, it's on my Audible. I'm listening right now. It's called Sapiens. It's all about the evolution of humans over the years. And there's just so much great information out there, and you learn something new every time.
Why do you not like fiction?
I'm not sure. I feel like I don't learn as much from fiction because I know somebody came up with it. And if I'm going to come up with something, I'll let my own imagination run wild. I shouldn't be biased against
No,
it.
I struggle with it too. I've barely, I've read probably less than 5 fiction books in my entire life. I enjoy my go-to is always like business books, and every once in a while like a music book, or I've read only some of the best hunting books and stuff like that. But I'm also, but I ask myself the same question: why don't I like reading just a good story? It's really bad, but I actually kind of look at it as a waste of time. And I know that's a really bad thing, but I don't feel like I'm learning anything. My wife would argue with me. My wife loves fiction, and she loves nonfiction too. She's a book nerd.
Which is why I try not to be judgy on the whole fiction thing. I just personally can't. I can't devote my time to it. Another really good one that, not that this is turning into a book club, but there's a book called The Secret Life of Trees. And it is so well written on basic terms. Anybody can understand the way this guy wrote this book, The Secret Life of Trees. And it changed the way that I look at trees. They live in communities, and the way, deciduous trees, decide what year they're going to throw fruit, right? Just all of the way their roots work, the way their entire system works. And you look at trees and you walk through the forest and you're like, la-di-da, pretty trees. But then when you really think about a tree and the magic that has to go into this beautiful living organism growing out of the ground and providing something for the earth. I mean, I nerd out on that stuff. So that to me is time well spent. If I can read a book that then reconnects me to nature in a way that in 40 years, I had never even looked at things that way.
Absolutely. That I actually want to read that book now that you bring that up. I'm going to write that down.
I'll send you a link to it. It's amazing.
Do you read business books?
Sometimes, but the ones that I've found so far just don't pique my interest. There's been a few. There's one called The Third Door. It's a great book. I wouldn't call it a business book, but it's more of a, basing, your aggressive decisions in life, on how to be most successful. You could think of it as a business book, but The Third Door is a great book for anyone who just really likes to get things done, who likes to be assertive and figure out how to accomplish your goals. It's a great book. I've read it twice. Highly recommend it.
I'm going to read it.
Are you writing it down? I'll send you a list of books.
Yeah. I'm writing it down right now. Yeah, business books. Business books most of them you can kind of get what you need out of the first chapter or two, and then it's just examples of that, philosophy. Right. And I'm not trying to diminish business books. I've read a ton of them, but that kind of tends to be the case, unless there are exceptions to that. But I get it. I get it why you wouldn't become obsessed with that.
I think I get really excited about it because I grew up without television, and and I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 in June, and which means we would have been able to have TV. It's not like we didn't have access, but I grew up reading a lot of books and educating in that way, and now I still do the same thing. We kind of, we remember where we came from, and even
Absolutely.
though I work here and I run this business and there's a lot of video content happening all the time, I find myself still not turning on the TV if I don't absolutely have to.
So what does it look like running a company like that, a media company, where you're actually not producing a physical product? You're producing, the amount of content you guys produce is monumental, excuse me. I got to turn off my phone. So what does it look like? What's a day in the life of running a media business even look like for those of us that have never done that and probably never will?
Yeah. So step number one, have an incredible team of people who are smarter than you. I have managed to surround myself with some highly intelligent people. A few of them were here when I started, and I came into this company as the underdog. I think I was the only female at the company at the time. And I came in as a consultant, business consultant, to look over what was happening in their structure. And I ended up, taking over operations really quickly, making a few changes. But the one key thing is to have really great people. And I know that sounds very cliche, but the way it works here is I have basically one person ahead of every department that you could think of. So the head of creative design, I fully trust him. I don't micromanage. He knows just as much as I do about that department, or more, probably more. I have a director of operations. You know her, Autumn, and she heads up our.
She's fantastic.
She's super organized. She's incredible, and she.
Oh my
shares
gosh! The first email I got this morning was her being like, "Boom! It's what day is it? Monday. It's Monday. We have a podcast today. What's the link? And I love that.
Well,
That's
and this is where that comes into play. Autumn knows me, and she knows that if she doesn't do that on my behalf, I'm pulled in 50 directions every hour here. So I'm constantly going and doing, and I'll forget things if Autumn doesn't remind me. She's kind of my right hand at this company. And, I need people like that who are good on follow through, very quick to act. So Autumn is our director of operations. And then I have, Jamie's my director of programming and production. So they all report to me, but they all own their space of the company. So my day looks like a check-in with everybody, making sure that my developers are good, making sure that everyone has what they need to be successful that day. And I help them. So it's not that and of course I lead them and I do run the company, but I think of it more as I check in with them, it's how can I be helpful? What are you working on? Do you need assistance with anything? And let's get really excited about this, because I know that we are all on the same page and they share my vision. And my job is to be the visionary, to lead the company down certain paths and to make the really big, hard decisions while they do incredible work at what they do. So that's kind of what my everyday looks like, is working with my people.
Yeah, it's leading a team of people. I think back in the old days, it was called a boss. It's a little bit less common to call it that now, but it's really not about that, right? It's about, like you say, it's almost like empowering people and being there to help them succeed. But absolutely, there does need to be somebody where the buck stops, right? And that's kind of in our modern culture where, everybody gets an award for everything and it's always nice and hunky dory, which, by the way, I thrive in a community like that because I don't love conflict. I've had to work really hard in business to be able to deal with conflict. But for someone in your position, you have to be able to make decisions that for a fact there's going to be 5 people that agree with it and 5 people that don't agree with it. And they're just going to have to live with it. But you've listened to everybody's perspective. But leading a group of people like that, that in itself is a talent that you can't just get by declaring yourself a boss, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone has their own leadership style. So the way I lead is very different from how other people would feel comfortable in a leadership role. But people who know me personally, and then they know me in business, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, I hate to be the one to say it, but I know how I am as a person in person, and I'm very friendly. I don't like conflict. I am, very, I fly under the radar. I'm, very much an introvert. In business, not even close. I am totally fine having the hard conversations. I am great in negotiation, and I would fire my own mom if she wasn't doing a good job, which doesn't mean I ever fire anybody, because I don't ever have to, but I would, because I know that, if somebody is not doing their job out of love and they're not doing it, with their full passion and they're not all in, why are they doing it? So that's my belief. And that's why we don't have any turnover here. We hire the right people for the right job, and then I lead them and set them up for success. And then it's just like this incredible, well-oiled machine.
How do you flip that switch between your introverted, non-confrontational self and this like businesswoman ninja?
How do I flip the switch? Creating healthy boundaries is the big thing. So I know, at work, I just create boundaries where I don't let things get to a point where I would be in an uncomfortable situation where I can't have a hard conversation, or, I can't make a decision because of, some odd reason. I just know, as long as I'm always on the up and up, my primary focus is integrity, which I think that when you have integrity and you really focus on that, it means that you are whole. And that is the whole purpose of that word existing, is something that is whole and complete. And in that space, it's just easy for me. It's never a matter of, oh, I feel like I should crawl under the table and not have conflict. I'm ready to stand up for my company and for my people, and to do what's right for the business and for all of our producers and all of our partners, everyone that we work with. It all comes down to me having integrity.
Right.
And it's easy.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you are acting honestly and just doing what you know to be right. Because when you do that, even if there is fallout or conflict, or if you're one of those people that's anxious about those things, at least you did what was right. You won't regret your decision, right?
No, right. And that makes it easy to have a hard conversation. And in my personal life, I only surround myself with people who I don't have to have conflict. I don't have to, have very many difficult conversations because I've chosen very wisely at this point in my life who gets to come into my personal life. And that's a key factor.
Yeah, you get better at that as you get older, right?
Yeah. Welcome to our 40s, right? It gets so much easier as we get older.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta, by the time you get to be, I think when it started happening for me was right around 35 is when you started just noticing people and personality traits where you're like, I just don't have patience for that shit anymore. Like,
Right.
I just can't, I can't deal. I love that person, or maybe I don't like that person at all, but either way, I can't spend the next 20 years pretending like this is enjoyable anymore. So
Right.
you kind of end up kind of funneling down your personal relationships, but also professionally, that happens professionally too. You do business with partners and companies and people that aren't a total fucking nightmare to work with. I mean, that is the truth. And
Right.
people that just make decisions based on money are being short-sighted. I mean, I can think of specific situations at Sitka where we turned down a lot of money in business because that partner or those people were in it for the wrong reasons and didn't sort of support our ethos. And I think that's being a leader. That's what you do with your personal and professional life too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It comes down to integrity. And once you kind of learn how to decipher between, some people, you have to be around them. You have to work together in some capacity. But it doesn't mean that you have to nurture that relationship for it to be long-term. I've learned where I should be putting my energy, where my focus should be, and it gets easier as we get older. And I don't even feel like I have to make excuses for it anymore. Remember in our 20s and early 30s when it was, oh, well, here's the reason why I have to start backing away a little bit, right? And now it's just like, nope. We cut ties when it doesn't feel right. We go with our instinct and our gut, and you start listening to how you react to the energy that this person or these people or this group is bringing into your world. And it's like hard pass if it's no good.
It's almost like we spend that part of our life people pleasing as opposed to, and kind of trying to, and partly it's because you don't really know who you are yet. But hopefully by the time you're in your 40s, you have a little bit better idea who you are. I mean, we're all still figuring it out, I guess, in a way. But the more you realize who you are and actually become like unapologetically comfortable with it, then you just don't worry about those things, and it totally shifts your perspective on, you probably used to go out, with friends where you're okay, I need to be this person when I'm with this person. I need to be this person when I'm with and you'd go like I had relationships like this where you go home and you're like, God, I feel like a piece of shit right now. That's not who I am. Like what was I even acting like that for? Recently I've been, and I've had to do this several times in my life, but not drinking. And a lot of, I have a lot of friends that love to drink. I love to drink too. But I'm not drinking this year. From 42 to 43, I'm not touching a drop of alcohol. And I posted it recently on my Instagram, and it's amazing. Most of the messages are super positive, but you do get a couple where it's like, boring, oh God, here we go again, that type of stuff. And it's like, well, I don't need to be around people that just want to be around me because I'm drinking. That seems kind of lame. Now, I got nothing negative. The people that said that, like they're just fucking with me, and it doesn't matter. But you do, it's decisions like that where I was thinking last night, it's like, okay, I'm totally comfortable with this decision. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm actually really happy about it. But I know that there'll be people where I only interact with them when they're drinking or I'm drinking that might just naturally back away, not maliciously or anything, but I'm like, I'm so comfortable with myself, and I'm just like, oh, well, that means I don't have a hangover, and hopefully we can have that friendship. But if not, no big deal. It must not have been that deep anyway.
Yeah, and the other thing about that is when you do a hard thing, and the hard thing can be what you're doing right now, it can be making any decision or something that takes you outside of your comfort zone, and you announce that, you never know who you're quietly inspiring. and the people who maybe didn't comment or didn't say anything, but they needed to know that somebody else is also making a decision for their own personal journey. I think that sometimes it's nice to know we're not alone, and that other people are doing similar things and having, being vulnerable and brave and speaking up for that. So, and the ones who support you will be with you on that journey and supportive and excited for you, to be, the healthiest version of yourself. But I think that is the beauty in social media, is that you never know who saw that post or who read that. And they're like, oh, I can do that. Somebody else is doing it. And so that means that maybe I have that strength also.
Oh, there's no question. The Altitude Show is brought to you by Peaks Equipment, the world's leading technical, hard goods, and accessories brand for backcountry enthusiasts. From trekking poles to headlamps to best-in-class gators, Peaks delivers a system of products that work to achieve optimal performance in the harshest conditions. Don't suffer on your hunting adventures. Peaks enables you to thrive on the mountain when everyone else is going home. Visit peaksequipment.com and use code ALTITUDE for 10% off today. That's ALTITUDE for 10% off on peaksequipment.com. About that. About 3 years ago, I posted about anxiety and depression, and I just did it on a whim. I can't remember exactly why. But I'm like, fuck it, post it. And I talked about having suicidal thoughts and all these things. And I couldn't believe how many people DM'd me or texted me, and some people that I've been sworn to never mention, like pretty high level celebrities in our industry, or that were like suicidal, like legitimately suicidal, or had an experience where they came like within hours close to it. Yeah. And they reached out just saying, hey, I know none of us talk about this, but I feel pretty much your post is exactly how I feel. And what's funny, Julie, is I've posted thousands of times, just like everybody else. I post random thoughts. I'm pretty open book at this point. But that one post from 5 years ago or whenever that was, people still to this day walk up to me and be like, when you posted that thing? And I'll be like, what thing? I posted lots of things. No, the thing about that was me, man. That is me. I feel like that. What am I supposed to do? And I get messages still. So I think it's like, here's the way I look at it, and tell me if you agree with this. With things like that, where it's hard, you have to kind of step out of the comfortable pool and into something that's kind of, you have no idea where it's going to lead you. But it's like being in a classroom when you're a kid and you have a question and you're too uncomfortable to ask the question because you think it's a stupid question. But once you ask the question, you realize that everybody else immediately raises their hand and says, yeah, that was my question too. It's the same feeling. I think everybody knows, or a lot of people, more people than we think, have these same challenges, that whether it's drinking or depression, whatever the challenge is, but no one will talk about it. They feel like they have to conform to society. And there's this huge pressure. I guess I just don't feel that anymore. I pretty much will talk about anything. Sometimes it makes my family uncomfortable, but
no, I think that sometimes that comes with age. Sometimes younger people already have that built in, I think. But, we do become more aware that we're all just kind of here walking each other home, as they say. And, your journey is going to be very different from mine and from everybody else's. But so many of those experiences and emotions overlap. And we can build empathy through that, through knowing that somebody else, is also experiencing something, but we also felt that. And now there's this bond, and there's this human element that comes into play. And yeah, I think that for some people, they have to wait until the time is right, until they feel comfortable talking about something that has been really difficult for them. And even if they remain silent, that's okay too. There will be people who speak up and who have a voice for them, so they don't feel like they're alone. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful thing. And when you find yourself in those moments, to really be in that moment and to connect with the people who needed to hear from you, or to connect with, whatever that experience was. I mean, that's really why we're here. That's being human in community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do the same thing. I there's a lot of people I look up to on things that that I may not have talked about before, but how do you stay so positive, Julie? You're always smiling. You always look happy.
So I know. I'm chronically happy. That's the thing.
Tell us about your routine to stay happy.
So I have this belief that maybe not everybody would agree with, but I think that most humans, for the most part, have a happiness baseline. You know how some people, they're always really happy and smiling, or they're just really never really that cheerful or very happy. Even if something really good happens, it'll spike, but it goes right back to their baseline. I believe that. I think that we all have a baseline, and I was blessed with a really high baseline for happiness. Even in really difficult times, bad situations, terrible things that happen, I bounce back really quickly because I naturally have a baseline that sits really high on that scale. I appreciate that, and I try to nurture that through practice. I meditate every day. That's probably a big part of it. That's changed my life over the years. Some people probably think that when I say that, I sit for hours and, chant a mantra, but I don't. I go into my meditation room. It's here in the office. And I'll sit for 5 or 10 minutes every morning before my day starts in silence or without silence. And whatever I need that day, I take it from the universe, and I spend that time with myself, opening up to whatever I need. And I walk out okay. I just think that, nothing has ever happened in this life that I haven't survived yet. So that's a pretty cool stat. It's like, what could be so bad that I would be not happy? I live a blessed life. I have the greatest life ever. So yeah, I'm happy every single day that I get.
Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I'll look at the older folks around me and like their gray hair, and I'll be like, that guy or gal is twice as old as I am. And I guarantee they've been through harder things than I've ever dealt with and may ever deal with. And they're still standing there smiling, talking over coffee about the weather. So no matter what I'm going through right now, it can't be that bad, right?
Right. And also it's a choice. You can choose to be, if happy is the word, then you can choose that. You can choose to have gratitude. And I think that it is a choice. And some people who, you look at them and they look like, gosh, they've got the world set up in their favor, but they're just so grumpy. And it's like, what could possibly be so bad? We've all had bad experiences. Tough things happen. Man, sometimes life is really, really hard. And then you wake up the next day, and you should be grateful that you woke up the next day. So that's just how I go into every single day.
Are you a physical exerciser, runner?
Every day.
Like that?
Yeah, I don't run it. No, not a runner so much anymore because I'm 40. So, my knees don't like it as much as they used to.
Right.
No, I work out every day. I'm so blessed. We have a great gym right here in the headquarters. I'm in there 6 days a week, all the time. It's where a lot of that comes from. And I also believe that if you're leading people, or even if you're not, even if you work for yourself and you're a one-man band, you're just killing it, right? Physical health transfers over into everything. Your physical health and your sleep patterns and your eating habits, it all transfers into the rest of your life. And I know that the people who work with me, they deserve my best self. So yeah, I kill it in the gym. I don't talk about it as much as I used to. I used to write the fitness columns and post the pictures, and I was really proud of that part of my life. And I still am, probably in better shape now than I ever have been. But that's for me now. Like, that's just I take it very seriously.
What type of stuff do you like doing?
I lift weights 5 days a week. I lift. I don't do as much cardio because I'm a naturally fit person. I don't get on a treadmill, not trying to lose any weight. And I know that's, calorie deficit will be the bigger answer for that. But yeah, I lift weights almost every day.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how good you feel when you do stuff like that, huh?
Yeah. I believe in it. And it makes me feel good. those endorphins, just, there's something about walking out of the gym and just feeling like you can do anything.
So back to the business, because the media business, again, it kind of fascinates me. So obviously you're leading people, but like I said, you have monumental amounts of content that live on your platform that you guys deliver to, I think, millions of people. How do you even serve that much content, and like how much content is being uploaded all the time, and how do you manage that? I mean, there's a whole tech side that I don't understand at all.
Yeah, it's a big business. So the way it works is, so we have, I think right now around 250 shows that air on the network, and we have, historically their content library. So it's a lot of content. And it's an expensive business to run. I mean, we have to manage that, through technology, and we do that really well. But the way that we're serving that is, through multiple endpoints. So that would mean, no matter where you want to watch, content that day, if you're on Roku, which is probably one of the most popular things that we do. Roku, if you have an Apple TV, an Amazon Fire Stick, if you're on your phone or your tablet, anywhere you are, you pull up CarbonTV and it's free. So we've never had a subscription model. We don't plan on having a subscription model. No one's going to have to pay to watch all this content. And then you just, on the AVOD side, so video on demand, you choose what you'd like to watch and you watch it. Fortunately for us, it's a great business model. And, then, like I said, last year we moved into the fast channel side, so on a global level. And the way that works is, instead of being video on demand, we choose the programming schedule. So we know what show's going to air at what time. It's a programming schedule. It's all programmed out. And we distribute that to all of these partner networks around the world. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
now, these shows that are on there, are they exclusive, or are they also aired other places?
Some of them are exclusive. Yeah, we have, I think, 20 something exclusive shows. So those, definitely get a lot of traffic, a lot of attention. And then most of the other ones we license and distribute that content. So instead of me saying that we own it, we don't have any ownership rights. And those producers, if they're not exclusive, they're welcome to still do everything else they're already doing. And I believe in that model. I think that, the more successful a producer is, the better it is for us if we're partnered with them. Right. So some of them are on YouTube or wherever they want to put their content. The ones that have been on, YouTube or some of the mainstream outlets, especially in the outdoor space, the hunting, fishing space, a lot of censorship has happened over the years. So we've kind of become the home for those shows, where we celebrate that content. We make sure that it's protected for them, and, we help them sustain their business.
Mm-hmm. How does it, I mean, you're a woman in a male dominated industry, and you have been for a while. Yeah. And you seem to thrive, where I've seen there's quite a few other examples of that, but I've also seen a lot of examples where women don't thrive because it's a male dominated industry, for better or for worse. So what's your tricks of the trade there?
I believe that credibility leads to longevity. So I've been here for almost 18, 20 years, probably 20 years total in the outdoor space. And the credibility comes from working hard, not having a sense of entitlement. Nothing needs to be handed to you just because you're a woman. You have to still work hard, and you have to have good intentions, be here for the right reasons. I've seen those also. The flash in the pan, they'll come in and it's maybe not the right intentions. Maybe they're doing it for some other reason. I don't know. But my own personal experience has been wonderful. I'm sure some doors opened over the years because I am a female. I have been here for a very long time. But I've surrounded myself with the right people, and I've built that credibility through hard work and through legitimately finding my place in the community and doing a really good job at it. So, I try to be really supportive of all of the females who are coming into this space with good intentions. I want to see more of that, and I want to be supportive of it. So, I open myself up to a lot of those women who need advice or connections or, whatever we can do to be helpful. But my journey's been really great. I haven't had the bad experiences. I can't complain at all. I think a lot of the men in this space have just been nothing but respectful, and they've helped me over the years just like they would anybody else. So yeah, I've had a great experience with it.
Do you ever have conversations with women that have maybe not the greatest of intentions and they're going after, we've all seen it. And I think this is what this is one of the things that drive the annoying men in our industry, the ones that are kind of toxic, to push women out of the industry. Is you have women that'll come in and it feels like they're selling they're promoting their body or a what's it called, their OnlyFans account with a bow in their hands, and maybe they're a legitimate hunter, maybe they're not, but they get slammed by the industry or by these people that take the time out of their day to be assholes. Do you ever find yourself coaching ladies that want to get into the industry about the best ways to do this and how to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've seen?
Yes. The answer is yes. I actually freely give my personal contact information out to whoever needs it. I try to be very open about that. There have been some young ladies over the years that I counsel or I get on the phone with or I reach out to, and you kind of know right away. You kind of just, right away if it's, wow, this is somebody who really has the right intentions, or if it's kind of like, maybe she's just looking for some experience and, whatever. Either way, they deserve my time and counsel. Either way, whether my judgment says that this is a person I would choose, that doesn't matter. If they're looking for help, there's a chance that I can give them some form of guidance. Mm-hmm. But then there's been other young ladies and women over the years who I'm so proud. I met them right when they got into the outdoor space. And some of them have some really high level jobs in this industry now. And I'm not saying I can take credit for that, but I love that I was a part of their story. And I love that I was able to participate in, either giving them connections or guidance or just support, that empowering them and giving them an affirmation if they needed it, cheerleading from the sides. So yeah, I speak to a lot of women all the time about this, and I'm happy to talk to all of them. Some of them I see a definite path, success in their future, and others it's like, they still deserve to have someone to reach out to if they need me.
What do you say to them?
I typically ask questions. I will ask them, what their skill sets are, what they're trying to accomplish, what their desired outcome is. And based on just really basic questions like that, you can usually get a pretty good gist of, what their angle is, what they're trying to do. And, if I don't get the feeling like this is someone I would bring into my personal circle and my personal connections, I just let them know that they've got my phone number if they find themselves, in a place where they need it. And, if they want to call me, stay in touch, I'm happy to be there for them. But the ones that I really see some type of like, wow, I could see this person really doing something great. I'll open my phone book for, and just say, who can I introduce you to, or how can I help you? And actually, if you want to know a great story, she won't care if I tell this. Real quick, is our connection good? I think maybe you're frozen. I can't tell. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. So Autumn, who works for me.
Yes.
She heard me on a podcast And she had been following me for a long time. And she heard me on a podcast, and she researched me, and she found my contact information. And she sent me an email, and she sent me a DM, and she sent me every way that you could possibly get in touch with a person. She sent a message. And she said, and I know she won't care if I tell this story because I've told it before. She said, "My dream job" was the title of the email. And she said, "I've heard you talk about how passionate you are about your work and what you do in this company. And all I want is to love my work as much as you love yours." And so she said, "I'll get your coffee. I'll, book your travel, I'll whatever I can do to be a part of this." So I emailed her back, and she lives maybe 40 minutes from my office. So I had her come in the next day, and she's basically my second in command of the company now, 3 years later. Like, it's just,
Wow.
I saw this spark in her, and I'm telling you, there's no one better at what they do than that girl. She's amazing. And it was through the power of podcasting and social media that she made this connection with me. So
That's incredible.
I'm so proud of her. And there is no glass ceiling when you have the right people around you.
Some of the best hires I think we ever made at Sitka Gear when I was there. When we post a job, we would get tens to, let's just call it 50 to 100 resumes at least for a job posting. And I was involved in quite a few hires at my time there. But the best hires, some of the best hires we ever made weren't even the posting may have triggered the person, but the people that I remember the most are the ones that sent some sort of letter, like what you just said, an email, a letter, or walked in and just said, "Hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea necessarily even what I want to do, but here I am. I'm standing right here in front of your feet, and I want that job. And here's, or like, I remember somebody one time created a video, and they're like, "Hey, very vulnerable, like just real, genuine." Because let's be honest, resumes are kind of smoke and mirrors bullshit. Yeah. Like, you don't really know a person from their resume. You can construct a resume that basically says anything. No one's going to take you to court if you lie on your resume. Not right. Condoning that, but there's a lot of like half truths on resumes. So the best hires are like what Autumn did, I think. Like, if you want in any industry, like if you want to be a songwriter, move to Nashville, get a job at a publishing company, take out the trash, sweep the floors. If you want to be, an MMA fighter, I don't know. There's just, get your foot in the door somehow, be genuine, be honest, know what you don't know, and just say, "Hey, I don't know what the hell I got to do. I'll scrub your guys' toilets for 6 months. I don't really give a shit. I just want in this industry." And I think when people see that, they want to help you, and that you're going to stand out much beyond any bullshit resume or job posting on outdoorindustries.com or whatever, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, when I make a hire, and I've hired a lot of incredible people, a lot of them have never worked in the outdoor space before. And I love that. It brings a fresh set of eyes to the company. And I did the same thing back when I had the production company. A lot of our editors and videographers had never worked in outdoor space. And, these camera guys would be out in the field, collecting this footage it's things we take for granted if we're out there all the time. But it was their first time seeing, the flowers in the desert or whatever it was. And they're just in awe. And so when I make a hire here, first of all, I don't think I've ever asked anybody where they went to college. It's not a question that comes to my mind when I think of the qualities that are important for what we're doing here. Sure, college is great, amazing, all for it. But it's not a requirement to be incredible at a job. And I think that above that, I would try to gauge their curiosity or their passion for, whatever it is that lights them up. So, I think that my best hires over the years have been the ones that you would not have chosen on paper. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have chosen Autumn on paper, because she is super qualified. She's incredible. But she literally just sent me an email and said, like, "Can I get your copy? Like, I just want to be a part of whatever this is that's making you so happy. I want that in my life." And it's just a beautiful story.
Yeah, and I think there's a delineation between that email that Autumn sent, or that guy that made a video for us at Sitka. There's a difference between that and sending an email, here's all my accomplishments, here's why I'm the best person ever, and you guys are at a loss if you don't take me. We used to get those too. Those go to the trash can. Like, just automatic deleted, because, well, we could dive into all the psychological red flags of that email, right? There's a lot of things wrong with that. But I think I've tried to boil this down in my mind of what is the best quality to hire. What is that? If you had to narrow it down to one thing that was your top priority, number one, and I think for me, the answer, at least currently, is integrity. If someone has, and then maybe next down would be like motivation and passion for the ethos and the goals and missions of the company.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next one's like curiosity.
Curiosity is a top thing. Yeah. It's really far up at the top. And I think it's because that's a quality that can lead down so many new paths. I want everyone here to become more curious as they continue working. It shouldn't be, oh, you come to work and here's your parameters and you have to do these things today. It should be, I'm going to go to work today and come up with the coolest idea or something that we've never done before, or I'm going to swim outside of my lane for a minute because I got really curious about what someone else on the team is doing. That to me is what drives the business. That's the growth space. And so anytime someone comes in here and I interview them, or, look into bringing them on the team, if I can tell that they will be super curious, that's interesting to me. That, and also common courtesy is a big one, which, I mean, in today's world, that probably sounds really kind of silly to say as far as like in a hiring situation. But I mean, common courtesy goes a long way. And just, being respectful of other people's time, doing what's best for the company, having kind of those core principles of being all in, this is what we're here to do, wanting to accomplish your goals. I think all of this kind of leads to a more modern twist on the hiring protocol, especially for young businesses.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of startups. I work with a lot of startups. That's kind of the world I live in. I was once part of a bigger thing that I'm a 0 to 50 or $75 million business type of guy. And I really love the first 10 million, the first, several years of a company. It's really hard. There's things I don't like about it, but the thing I like about it the most is the tight-knit group of people that are all serving towards a common purpose. The bigger a company gets, the harder that is to do. There's too many people, because it's really, really difficult at a real level to keep people pointed at the same North Star. But when you're like 6 people, or even 10 or 20, you can do it. And it's amazing. It's like the good old days, right? And to introduce somebody new to that team, you got to be really careful not to bring toxic people into that team. And it's really hard to avoid, because I can tell the folks listening out there, and I bet you Julie's really good at this. I bet you she can look at a resume and be like, yeah, ooh, I don't know about that. That seems a little too flashy, a little bit too not like, I don't know. You can kind of get like, when you've done this for a while, you're not always right. But I can tell you some of the worst hires that I was ever a part of were the flashiest resumes, where we, because to Julie's point, college is great. It's a nice plus to have. It's not a must have, depending on the job. There are jobs, obviously, like being a doctor and a lawyer and all that thing, obviously. But we're just talking about right now in the context of working this space. But I think you're right. I think you kind of get a better compass for it too, as you've done it longer. But you're protective over your team. Like you said earlier, it's your main job to kind of serve their. Obviously, you have to meet the business goals, but you have to, in order to do that, you have to serve their best needs.
Yeah, and you have to. That respect goes both ways, right? I mean, they can say, oh, well, Julie's the boss, so we have to respect her time. I have to be respectful of theirs too. That's a two-way street. And yeah, I do. I'm very protective of my team, and I love them. I adore every single one of them. But I think the biggest thing is I trust them. And, there's really no weak link here where I would say, oh, I have to micromanage the project this person's on because, I don't think they're going to do what's right. One of the things that makes me most proud as a boss or a leader, whatever you want to call it, is when somebody in the team will surprise me by making a decision without coming to me for it. And I know that sounds a little offbeat, but I can think of quite a few situations over the years where I have a million things going on over here, and somebody who obviously I have high trust in them, I know they know what they're doing, and we're on the same page, right? We communicate very clearly. It'll come down to, okay, it's this or that, A or B, whatever. And they, boom, make the decision. I know that this is what Jules would want. This is what's going to happen. And then they'll come say, hey, we did this. I know that we've already communicated, and they don't have to come to me for it. And that's team. That's a team to me, where there's such high trust going both ways, that they trust that I will know that they know what they're doing. It's just, it's a beautiful thing. That's when you're in flow. That's when it's, it's not like, oh gosh, you're supposed to check with me on everything and I have to micromanage everything that you're doing. That's not how it goes here. And
that usually doesn't lead to good places when it's like that.
No. And I love building their confidence. They know what they're doing. I trust them. They're smarter than I am. So then you see them shine. And then it's like, wow, they're really in their element now. They own that space. And that's where I've seen this company thrive over the years, where it's just everything starts running more smoothly when people feel like they have ownership of the quality that comes out of it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You said you used to spend 250 days or so a year in the field. Obviously running this company, you can't do that anymore.
No, I know. Yeah. The good old days. Yeah. No, I had to forego a lot of my travels, a lot of the hunts that I used to get to go on, and that's okay. It's a good trade. But I still go. I still go on quite a few hunts. I just don't always publicize them like I used to. Just kind of a personal choice. I keep it to myself these days. But yeah, it's a big switch. Back then it was producing content and you had to be in the field for that. I mean, I worked with you at the time for quite a while.
Do you miss those days of spending 250 days a year in the field, or is that kind of just a phase of your life that you cherish and you love, but you're stoked about what you're doing now too?
That's exactly, I think you put it better than I could. Yes, there are moments when I miss elements of the lifestyle that I had back then, mostly because I got to spend so much time outside. And, I would base my happiness threshold on how many days a year do I get to be outside. It's not how much money am I making or how, what kind of animals am I getting to hunt. It wasn't any of that. It was more, okay, but how long do I get to be outside for? And back then it was at the peak. It was over 200 days every year. But then there was a downside to that as well. So, when I did make this change and when I did shift into this role, I have my moments where I'd love to be back on the road and living out of my vehicle again, but this is pretty great. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
When did you start hunting?
When I was around 18.
Who got you into it?
Myself. So I am not from a family that hunted. There wasn't even any talking about hunting. I didn't know that was an option. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I moved to Missouri when I was 17, and something piqued my interest. Something, gave me that spark. Like it was something I wanted to learn about, and I was.
Outdoor Class is the new source of premium outdoor education from trusted and knowledgeable experts. For hunters committed to improving their skills, Outdoor Class is the only subscription-based e-learning platform that provides unlimited access to video lessons from the world's most respected experts. Learn from industry leaders like Corey Jacobson, Randy Newberg, Remy Warren, and other experts across all the topics that affect you as a hunter. Make sure to follow Outdoor Class Official on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and take your game to the next level by going to outdoorclass.com. You can use code ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off. That is ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off at outdoorclass.com.
So that's pretty cool. You introduced yourself to hunting for no reason that you can recall. But at the time, I mean, that when you were 17, you're 40, I'm doing the math here, you're about the same age as I am. So this is in the 90s when especially women in hunting is pretty non-mainstream at this point, obviously.
Yeah. I didn't know of any women who hunted. I didn't know any guys who hunted at the time either because I was new into it. But I actually started working in the industry right after. I mean, as quick as I could, just knowing that this was something I wanted to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So lucky me, I got in early.
Where did you start working in the industry?
So do you remember back when pro staff was promotional staff and it was an actual, like you'd go to the store openings and you had to know the products and it was in person helping out. So I still have a written, like a typed letter that was sent to me in the mail from ScentLock 20 years ago. And that was the first company that I started working with. I worked with ScentLock and I worked with Muzzy Broadheads. Same thing. And I worked pro staff for both of them. If there was a store opening or they had a new product coming out and they would actually pay for the photos if I would, harvest an animal and I was wearing the stuff. And this is pre-digital era, so it was 4x6 photos and I would just mail them to them. It was crazy.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yep. So that was, it would be like around 2002, 2003, somewhere around there is when I got in 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it just really caught fire in your life. Cause you, when I met you back in the day, you were traveling around doing some pretty legit hunts out west and, backcountry elk hunting and stuff like that.
Yeah. So between those two things, so after that, I would volunteer to film people on their hunts. So I started learning how to run camera, which is crucial, to really break in and network. So I would just film people hunting and run camera for them. And then, when I met you, I was living in Nashville, co-owned the production company. And we would travel around and do these incredible hunts. I hosted a few different shows on the networks. And it was just this amazing, huge time of my life where it was just it's wonderful. Nothing but good memories from back then.
Yeah, and it was kind of the beginning of the hunting content boom, right? I don't remember when Outdoor Channel launched, but it was late. I don't know. What was it? Do you know?
Yeah. So I was on Sportsman Channel with a couple of shows. And then in 2014, we actually jumped ship from the network and came to CarbonTV with our show. And we had like 18 sponsors, to make happy. So that was like a huge risk, but we convinced everyone, and it was actually true, that this was a more data-driven strategy. On the network, it was like, oh, you're in 30 million households, and that's great, sure. But you can also legitimize a business of digital distribution of your video content through companies like CarbonTV. So we were the first kind of established TV show to just go away from the networks completely, voluntarily, and move over to the digital space. So, and we proved that the method could work, and it did, and the business was very successful.
So early on, were you bow hunting, gun hunting, all the above? And where were you? You were in Missouri. Were you whitetail?
Yeah, whitetail hunting. That first year, I borrowed somebody's 7 mag to shoot the whitetail with. I didn't really have anything of my own. And then I got into archery hunting right after that. I had think about this, 20 years ago, I had a Parker Challenger bow. And I mean, I was on top of the world with that thing, and terrible at it, I'm sure. But still, it was just those early days of, not really knowing what you're doing, but trying so hard. Yeah, and I've been archery hunting ever since, and I still rifle hunt a little bit also. I think any way that I can be out there, I support all of the different methods.
How has the industry changed since those days? Like, where do you think we're going, and how's it changed, good and bad?
Well, it's changed. I think that it's more inclusive now, which is good. I remember so many years ago, as a woman or even a young girl at the time, not quite a woman yet, you really had to prove yourself. And I remember being at some of these events or stores, and I was really trying hard, and I was out there in the field trying to learn my best how to use these products and help these companies. I'm not sure I was a lot of help, but I was trying. I remember people coming up and saying, "Oh, well, what bow do you shoot? What, where do you hunt? How many big deer have you killed?" And it was like, oh gosh, I have to prove myself now. It's not enough just to love being a part of this, but people are asking for actual evidence that I'm good at it. And that was terrifying. And I think that the industry's become more inclusive. There's a lot of people who maybe they don't harvest very many animals, and that's okay because they're having a good time. They're spending the money on the licenses and the tags. They're supporting the community in different ways. They're getting other people, women and young people out there into the field. And it's not so much about, oh, but how many, big deer have you shot? It's more like, yes, come be a part of this with us, and let's be supportive and start organizations that help beginners, have the tools they need to be a part of this. So I think that's one of the positive things that I've seen over the years is this this more welcoming feeling where a woman can come into the outdoor hunting or fishing, or just she doesn't even have to want to hunt or fish, just to be outdoors. And there's groups and organizations in place to help her make that happen. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't. There's a few industries that stick out, mostly because they're part of my life, that just are very uninviting at the beginning. But then it's like, and then I'm like, well, maybe that's how all industries are, or all hobbies, sports, whatever you want to call it. But recently this year, I started jujitsu.
Yeah.
And I was trying to compare with what you just said from my jujitsu experience, of which I did jujitsu a long time ago, but virtually I have no experience. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So I walk into the first class. They don't ask me how many black belts I've submitted, or if I've ever won a world championship, or if, I'm trying to get into the UFC, because that would all be bullshit. That's not even realistic.
Right.
They stick a white belt on you that you don't even know how to tie. And as long as you bow when you go on the mat and show some enthusiasm and work your work and be okay that you don't know shit, they're very welcoming.
Yeah.
Hunting, on the other hand, you're right, it has become more inclusive, but there still is this contingent of the hunting space.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually think about like how stupid it is to ask somebody how many big deer they've shot when they become when they're just a beginner, like, what the hell are you even talking about? Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I've witnessed people giving some other people a hard time online. There's a lot of bullying that happens, and it's sad, but it happens. And they'll say, oh, she's, she every year she never fills her tag, and, she's just doing it for the products. But if you shift your perspective on that and you think, okay, maybe she's never filled a tag. Maybe this girl is just out for a hike, but maybe she's also inspiring other young women or women in general to go to hunter safety and maybe become interested and maybe buy a hunting tag someday or a license someday. That one inexperienced person who's being bullied is probably inspiring a lot of other people to be vulnerable and to move into the space. So, I think that, I applaud I'm not just going to say women, but the people who have built a great career on being incredible hunters. And, really successful in the field and really, just out there doing amazing things. And that's great. That's not what I did. I did not build my career on killing big animals. We all know that. I built my career on having an amazing time outside and sharing that with the world. Period. Like that's what I did. It's not that I never filled tags, but that wasn't my priority. My priority was allowing other people to live vicariously through the content I was creating in the field. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated subject because I think where people, okay, so there's the toxic assholes. Let's leave them aside for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Where some of the bullying comes from is where a legitimate great hunter who maybe somewhere in the depths of his soul wants to build a name for himself, but doesn't know how or hasn't been successful in doing that. And then they see somebody come in and build a name for themselves that aren't a great hunter. They get jealous. They throw daggers at this person. That's not right to do. But from their perspective, they're saying, well, I'm a way better hunter than person A. How can they do? God, if I could go, if I had a big sponsorship from so-and-so and I hunted these ranches and blah, 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 blah. I sort of I'm empathetic and I understand where that is coming from. Mm-hmm. It's coming from a real place of maybe regret, maybe insecurity, or maybe just failure. You failed to build a name for yourself and you feel like you deserve that. And that's fine. Those are all real feelings. And there are people that are famous that aren't good hunters. There's actually a lot of them.
Yeah.
But to your point, that might not be the reason they're famous.
Right.
Maybe they might be famous because of their incredible personality, or maybe they just had the right connection at the right time. Look, this happens in every industry. Happens in music all the time. Like, you can't tell me that the most talented musicians are the ones that are on the top 10. Right. Like, no, that is not true. True. It might be true sometimes. There might be, a couple here and there, but it's just the way the world works, and it sucks sometimes.
Yeah. But I really love your example of jiu-jitsu, though. How they're just excited that you walked in the door, and they're just like, wow, this is one more person to kind of carry on this tradition or this, this path and spread this joy that we feel while we're doing this. I love that. And I think that, if you started comparing to other industries or other hobbies, even, just what a wonderful way to increase the scale, right? So more and more people are going to want to be a part of something that feels inclusive.
Yeah, my second class that I went to, I was standing there with like 25 people. They make you stand in lines based on your status. You're like if you have a stripe or a different color belt or whatever. Yeah. And I was standing there, and the professor looks at me and he goes, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like looking around, like super embarrassed. I'm like, "You look at it like me? What did I do?" And you got to remember, I'm used to doing things I'm good at. So like, this is a very big moment for me where I'm like, I suck. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm starting to blush. He's like, "You tied your belt wrong. Can someone please go tell this gentleman how to tie a belt?" And the whole class stopped, and like several dudes came over and helped me figure out how to tie my belt.
That's so nice.
But nobody was mean. The professor wasn't being mean.
Yeah.
But there's like this humility and humbling feeling about doing something that you're not good at, but also being openly okay with not being good at it. I think more people want to help you. I do think it's a legitimate concern in our industry where there's males and females. This is not just females at all. There's a lot more males that do this, that they come in and they're truly a beginner, but they're trying to act like they're not a beginner. There's this like ego thing, and even though it's stupid, I don't think people should waste their time worrying about it. I understand the sort of old guard out there that's out to like watch for that stuff. I don't think it's right to hate. I don't think it's right to bully. I don't think any of that's right. But I understand, I understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But I think if we all acted like my jiu-jitsu class does, of like, hey, someone new's here, guys. Yeah, they're not a freaking black belt. We all know that, you idiot. They have no idea what they're doing. Let's help them. They're another person in our community. They're, more tag dollars. Now that opens a whole nother can of worms, which, Julie, I'd love to get your perspective on this, because you're the host of what's the show called that you host? I'm sorry. Outdoor Weekly. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So you're in tune with a lot of different news. But I'd say the current state of our industry is we have done a great job at recruiting. So now people are like, recruitment is bad. Stop recruiting. There's too many people in my places. I can't get a tag, all these things. And again, I understand those concerns. I understand where they're coming from, but I'm not going to just jump to the conclusion that recruiting is bad. I want to learn more about it. And because I think just recruiting in anything is good because of the obvious reasons. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that change is difficult. I think, over the years, we have been begging for the hunting, fishing communities to grow and expand and to become more inclusive, like we're talking about. With that comes the fact that we're going to have to share the space. I can remember the days when, if I wanted to do the Arizona over the tag mule deer hunt, which I've been doing for 10 years now. You go to Walmart, buy your tag, or you buy it ahead of when you get there, and then you have your tag, and they do it by calendar year. So, if you want to hunt January, you schedule to hunt in 2023, not 2022. So now I got a notice because I wanted to do this hunt in January in Arizona, and I get a notice, and it's like the tags go on sale at midnight Mountain Time, and I'm in Eastern Time. So I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm logged into the site, and I'm like racing against a few thousand other people to try to get this tag that I used to just be able to kind of walk in, stroll in, and get the tag if I wanted it. And that's okay, because I know, as long as and there's examples of that in almost every state now. Idaho is the same way. I used to just stroll in and get the tag for where I wanted to archery hunt in Idaho. And now, I didn't get in the queue in time this past season to get the tag that I wanted. So yeah, that sucks. Sure. And I can see why people get really upset about that. And it is terrible in some ways, but it's also necessary. Without that change and adaptation to, the increase in interest in hunters, it would decimate the populations. And the one thing that I can think of that would be really helpful in this situation, if there was better, more open and transparent communication from those state agencies to the hunting public. And so that we know, in layman's terms, where you don't have to dig for the information, why that's changing and, how it's affecting the future of the herds. And, I know that they try to put some information out about that. I would love to see more of our influencers or TV show hosts talking about that to their audience, educating us, and I include me in the audience pool, on why those changes are happening and why things look and feel different than they did years ago. And I think that if we're all kind of on the same page, learning about it, becoming curious about why this is happening, it would squash a lot of that angst that happens when people don't get the tags that they want or feel like their hunting areas are being, overpopulated. I really feel like it's a transparency and communication issue at the core.
Yeah, the government's not good at communication. Did you know that?
No. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I know that some people are in the know, and I would love for them to share that, share that information. And I feel like it could really become a healthier conversation every year instead of people being so upset that things are changing. And but then the other side of us, we really want more hunters, and we want people to continue, buying those tags and licenses. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, that's become the question. Do we want more hunters at this point? Do we need more hunters, or is it I get messages on my Instagram almost weekly now of like, hey, how hard it is to get stuff out west. I don't know why everybody's, we don't need to recruit more hunters, no more hunters. And I'm like, gosh, I try to listen to what they had to say. Obviously my initial reaction is like, no, it's stupid not to try to recruit more hunters, because when there's more hunters, we have more of a voice and more economic value. Therefore, maybe more of a chance to survive the next decade, or even 5 years or 20 years, because I have serious concerns that my kids are even going to be able to hunt when they're my age. I have really serious concerns. And it doesn't have, my concerns have very little to do with how many people are buying Idaho tags or about some dude hunting my elk spot. My concerns lie with the organizations and people that have far more resources than hunters, and far more people supportive of their motives that are trying to shut it down. And if we don't have that voice and those resources to fight back, it's going to be gone. My kids aren't going to be able to hunt.
Right.
And I don't even think that's a crazy statement at all. So yes, I hear the people. I get annoyed too. I've been hunting since I was crawling, but I will also say that it's more complicated, and it's more nuanced than just saying no more hunters because there was a guy from a different state at my elk spot. That seems like a pretty shallow argument.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's sometimes people avoid conversations when it makes them uncomfortable. Fortunately for us in this community, we do have organizations that have that voice and who are not afraid to speak up. We've got the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, who I've worked with for a lot of years, and they are actively and aggressively, having these really difficult conversations on the behalf of hunters. And I know that. And you've got, Sportsmen's Alliance and a lot of other really great groups who are doing their best. When you think of it from that standpoint, that these groups or organizations are already put into place, they have the infrastructure, they've got the funding. It's just, how do we communicate what is actually happening back to the public? So, and I've done that, through Outdoor Weekly, as you mentioned, over the years. If there's, changes in legislation or regulations state to state, I usually get notified, and my people at those places will kind of send me updates, let me know what's going on, how things are going. And we try to push that information out there so that people feel like it's not all in vain, and that, some good things are actually happening. There is some progress. But if we're not all kind of banding together and, being a part of those conversations, yeah, it is terrifying. It is scary to think that these larger parties with a lot of money could come in and, for their own agenda, take a lot away from our future generations. That is very scary. But,
yeah, and people think it's like far-fetched because, I lived in Montana for a while, and a lot of the Montana regulations are so, I'm like, guys, this is the golden days. You have no idea how great these seasons are, how great the opportunities are. And yes, part of the reason that some of those things are going away is because there's more people that want to do it. But if you look to, places where these organizations have more influence, like California or Oregon, or even places like Canada, for example, some of these aren't fear tactics. These aren't scare tactics. These people do not want us to hunt, period. There's a bill that actually might make it to voting next time in Oregon that literally says they make it illegal to kill any animals for any reason, including livestock, including mice in a mouse trap, every animal for any reason. And I know that sounds crazy, and it is crazy. It's really fucking crazy. It's scary. But all they have to do, I can't remember how many signatures they have to get, but I think it's something like 100,000 or something like that. As long as they get that in Portland, think about if you walked around in downtown Portland with a clipboard and you said, hey, do you want to stop animal abuse? Will you sign this? Dude, I could get 100,000 signatures. I'm not trying to give these guys any ideas, But seriously, you could get 100,000 signatures. Or
Yep.
I forgive me, I don't remember exactly what the number is. It's something like that.
Yeah.
That could happen. That could literally be a bill. Now, so don't tell me that I'm like spreading fear tactics or crazy, because these things are happening. They shut down, bear, mountain lion and bear hunting with dogs and bait in 1991 in Oregon.
Yeah.
Which was just a step in the right direction for these organizations. They do it all the time with guns. We have this crazy gun bill that just passed in Oregon. That people just thought, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's for gun safety. Did you read the fucking bill?
Right.
No, you did not.
That's terrifying.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's more of the point for me, at least, is, yeah, I get all these concerns. I don't like people in my spots either. I sat on Idaho's line for 2 hours too, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got lucky though. I was number 201. Yeah. But I don't like that either. I've been going to Arizona the last several years, 4 or 5 years in a row. I didn't go last year or this year, and that kind of bums me out that there's less tags, but there's also less mule deer. So I get why they're doing it.
Yeah.
So these are all complicated issues, but I think the thing that still, until I'm proven wrong on this, I still don't think recruitment is bad. I still don't think treating people positively when they want to learn how to hunt or want to get a tag, or they even have a social media account where they act like they're a good hunter. I don't see why that really matters that much. What really matters is how we educate on the real issues and really what's coming for us and how we band together and fight it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you have to think of the big picture, right? Instead of getting caught up in all the little distractions. If we're thinking of the big picture for, the future generations and how we want this world to look when they take our jobs, take our hunting spots, right? Like, let's keep that in mind. What's the end goal?
Yes. Yeah. So where does this take us? Where is the industry 5-10 years from now? Even on the media side, like, what are you guys seeing?
So I think that it's we're in a healthy place. I see a little bit more of an opportunity to cross over into mainstream, which is good, right? As long as the messaging is correct and the messaging is good. We're actually getting less and less pushback from mainstream partners and people who at one time would have been very scared of hunting video content or even discussing hunting. That's not so much a bad term anymore. We don't have to soften it in order to get our foot in the door in some places. And I love that. I think that a lot of more, mainstream personalities are understanding how crucial it is to be able to provide for your families. I think COVID made a big, difference in that way for people where they wanted a more sustainable lifestyle. I actually think that where we're at right now as an industry is in a growth stage. I think that as long as we're managing it from the top, where we have the right people in place to help it move forward in a healthy way, I think it's great. And I think that this is a fabulous opportunity for us as hunters to show the world that this is not animal abuse. This is not anything that is unethical or illegal. This is something that is a very sustainable way of life. And if everything goes according to plan and we have the right structure in place, it can really, benefit the environment and our earth. I think right now we should be focused on what that forward momentum into a more mainstream audience looks like. That's a big concern of mine here as we're moving CarbonTV into what I call separate verticals. So, historically we're known for hunting and fishing video content, but we've really moved that and expanded out into other verticals like agriculture, aviation is a really big one, survival, cooking. So all of these other types of video content that have a really great crossover demographic with hunting and fishing. And we know that people who like this type of content will always also like this type of content. But it's really all about how we're presenting that content and, making it not only entertaining, but educational. And I think that is also a resource for hunter recruitment or fishing recruitment, however you want to look at that. So yeah, I think that part of my responsibility here is to, as the leader of the largest OTT network for the outdoor space, to keep that in mind. What are we presenting to the world, and how are we putting ourselves out there, as a community, and how do we manage that in a way where it is inclusive and inviting, and we want people to appreciate everything that's been done in the hunting space so far.
Yeah, I noticed Chevy on your website, just to your point of, sort of more mainstream acceptance of hunting and the culture behind it and the people behind it. Obviously I'd say Chevy's a pretty conservative, there's a lot of hunters that drive Chevys, me included.
Yeah.
But that does show like a positive step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Chevy's been a good partner of ours for almost 10 years now. And,
wow.
We work with them very closely. I work with them very closely. The messaging, and they feel safe with CarbonTV. They're excited that our audience, really loves the product. And we try to do a good job of marrying that, right? And providing a network that they can be proud to partner with. So yeah, and it is mainstream. And there's been quite a few others, that we work with as well. Non-endemic companies that come in, they want to be a part of what we're doing. And that creates this healthy bond. That creates a very, healthy marriage between what was historically known as hunting, fishing, hook and bullet, as people say, into a mainstream audience. So that's one of my big focuses for the next year or so.
Yeah, it's I think the whole field to table thing has helped us a lot. I think people realizing, I saw a clip, Jocko Willink, right?
Yeah.
I saw a clip of him just kind of boiling down his tips for life the other day. And really, when you boil life down to like how we all should be living, if we were honest with ourselves, it's actually pretty simple. And we actually did it for thousands of years. And one of those things is like, we live off the land, right? We don't like eating wild meat is good for you if you can eat meat. If you can't eat meat, eat wild meat. I still eat beef. But this whole idea, like we're coming back in so many ways to nature in this society, from getting in cold water every day to, I don't know. There's all kinds of different examples we could get into, but eating meat is one of those, and eating wild meat. It's becoming more and more popular. And I think that obviously helps hunting, and it helps companies like Chevy or whoever else in the mainstream go, we can probably get away with this now, as long as it's not like the redneck version of hunting that's, unethical and, poaching, illegal things. Right.
Right.
I think that's great for everybody.
Yeah. And I've noticed that it's not even so much that a lot of these companies or brands or organizations tolerate it, they're celebrating it, which is, even more beautiful. So, they're celebrating the fact that this is something they're a part of, instead of just saying, well, we'll dip our toes in the water and see how it goes. It's like, wow, this is really amazing, and we're excited about it. And I've witnessed that change over the years with a lot of the non-endemic brands that at one time would have been a little bit worried to be associated with hunting. And, when you are, selective and you choose wisely, who comes in the door. And I'm talking producer partners on that. We're selective on who we work with at Carbon. Not just everybody can come in and upload their content. We are very cautious because we do have a responsibility to our partners that this is a top-notch safe place for people to consume the best content. So yeah, it's been really cool to see that shift over the years.
Well, I've certainly appreciated knowing you and watching your trajectory, and I'm super stoked for everything you're working on, and happy you guys invited me to have my podcast on there. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
and
I'm excited to have you over. It's just that's one of the cool things. And because you've been in this industry a long time too, there's something so cool about, number one, watching your friends grow up with you. A lot of my closest friends have been in this industry with me for over a decade. And then to work together over the years in different capacities in different ways, and see that ebb and flow, and how we all kind of, the path will change, but you still have those good, solid people empowering you through it. So yeah, I'm excited to have you over here on Carbon. It means a lot to me personally, and I know that everyone just loves what you're doing. So it's an honor.
I appreciate that. Where can people follow you, find you, support you?
So me personally, I know I should be on social media more than what I am these days. But I mean, if anyone's looking for me, I'm Jules Mcqueen. It's not too hard to find me. CarbonTV is easy to find too. We're everywhere. All of the endpoints, if you watch video on demand. So, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick. If you have a new Samsung TV, we're just preloaded on there for you. Anywhere you want to watch, CarbonTV is there. And then obviously we're on social media. We do a lot of, really great giveaways with the producer partners. My team is amazing at, engaging with everybody through social. So yeah, I encourage everyone to check out CarbonTV. It's just a wonderful platform.
Well, I appreciate you. And I thank you for coming on the show, and let's do this again soon. I'm sure I'll see you on the road this winter somewhere at one of the shows.
Yes, I will be at most of the shows. CarbonTV is the official video streaming partner for SHOT Show and for Expo. So I usually show up, and I'm around. I just float around saying hi to all my old friends. So I'll be there.
Sounds fantastic.
Awesome. And thank you for having me on. This has been really fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Jules.